Yeah, greetings, people. Doc Martin, criminologist, educator, social commentator, and creative arts practitioner here. Welcome to the Roadman's Guide, a podcast chat show about life and issues from the ends, aka the inner city, the road, or just the streets. And you know something? Despite the bad press, negative labeling, distorted myths, and inaccurate portrayals, people in the end survive, live normal lives, and contribute to the betterment of our community. This is down to positive, strong-willed and self-determined individuals, groups and organisations who work tirelessly to make the community a better place, where there's hope, optimism and, more importantly, a sense of belonging. The Roadman's Guide is about giving a platform to those individuals who can voice the concerns, give us insights, pass on the wisdom and offer solutions to the complex nature of life in the ends. But more importantly, the Roadman's Guide is about the community, for the community. So get involved, come onto the show and talk, become a listener, as well as giving us some feedback to shape, guide and improve what we do. Yeah, greetings people, Doc Martin here. Today's an interesting show, I mean, on a kind of personal level. Many years ago, I remember listening to Luther Vandross's Dance with My Father, and I remember my son was born, and I remember standing him on my feet, playing that tune, and I shed some tears because my father never did that with me. And over the years, one of the things that has been very apparent to me is the importance of music to uplift your mood, to make you feel better. But more importantly, for those of us, certainly in the city, when we go through loss, pain, music becomes like one of the only things to help out. So today we're going to be looking at music, healing. But again, this is not about me. I just like people who understand this, practice this, do this, can give us some words of encouragement and wisdom. So kind of gives me great pleasure to introduce today's guest, Adante.
Greetings.
Greetings. Are you all right?
I'm good, thank you.
So how are you feeling right now?
I'm okay. I'm just glad to be here and part of this new, podcast and things. So.
Well, you know something, yeah. Let's start first because, I know one thing you don't do. You don't ask a woman her age, yeah. So I'm not going to do that. But what I want to do, I want to go back to when you were growing up. Let's talk about Adante growing up. Mm-hmm. What was you like as a young person growing up?
I think like with most kids now, growing up in the ghetto, Handsworth, it was one of those things where I knew that I wasn't a ghetto kid. I didn't think that way. I didn't want to just hang about. But at the same time, I was influenced by that. So I think for me, it was that kind of making that, that divide between still wanting to hang and be a part of something, but still wanting to stand up for
what age was that? I mean, was that when you was at primary school or was that more secondary school?
This is like secondary.
Tell me about primary school.
Primary school, very curious. I was into science. I was always fascinated with space for whatever reason. Anything over the water, you'd watch a program and just see like landscape and horizons. I was always interested in what was over there.
So, I mean, was that mainly because you was one of those ENA kids? You was ENA everything, or you just actually fascinated by stuff?
A bit of both. I mean, like any teenager, we all got, got involved and did what we had to do. But I think the other part of it for me, I always loved music. I used to sit down and listen to Radio 1 back in the day on a Sunday. And this is probably where my age will come into it. But I used to love listening to like some of the old pop music that was out then. So you had like your Level 42 and whatever. And this was me like at 8 years old.
Well, let me ask you a question because, one of the kind of stereotypes about young girls and singing is in your bedroom, with the hairbrush and singing. Now, as a black woman, would you say when you was 8, what was your kind of intro into singing, finding your voice? Was it the hairbrush? Or was it the aerosol can? I mean, what was it?
I mean, yes, we all did that with the hairbrush kind of thing, but I think it was seeing and hearing people like, at the time I was fascinated with people like Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. They had a group called Five Star that was from the UK. And that was me watching them on a Saturday. You know, they had the children's TV programs, and me seeing like 5 black siblings sitting there on a chair talking about music, and you know, having such an influence on the charts and the market within the UK. I was fascinated, and don't ask me why, but that drove me to want to know more.
Can you remember the first time you were? I mean, when you were at school, was you the kind of all things bright and beautiful child? You sing hymns at school.
I wanted to sing the hymns. Wanted to do the dancing. At primary school, we had a lot of mixture. You know, it was very diverse. I got involved with Morris dancing, Bollywood dancing, you name it. I was fascinated with the arts, being creative, and that was just like my escapism. How can I put it? It was one of them things where, you know, you try to. And that's why I say I was an arty kid. I wanted to, I didn't know how to express, but I knew that by drawing, you know, trying to play on my little Casio that was about that big, you know, I was fascinated I wanted to do something more. And I don't know, at that time, I didn't know why. But I know for a fact that I wanted more than just what I saw my family just doing, going to work, and not to say, and I appreciate that, but I just knew that I wanted more.
Can you remember your first time that you sang in public? Was it for family? Was it in a church?
It was actually a church, like a youth club, and we had the opportunity to do like a Sunday, you know, part of the Sunday service in the morning. And I was fascinated with Mariah Carey, the album Vanish, I think, one of them songs. And I was fascinated with the words. And I think at the time I lost my nan when I was 9. And that was my first experience of death. And I remember that changed my whole life.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how that experience changed it, and what did it change into?
You know, I think if you've got grandparents and if you've grown up with grandparents, I mean, I was always very close with my gran. When Mum went to work, I was there. You know, I'd comb my granddad's got ball patch and everything, and you know, I was there. And losing her, she was like Mum's mum, but she was like my mum growing up for that period of time. And I could talk to her about anything. We'd go out in the back garden, pick up time and everything else. And I miss. At that time, being 9, you're thinking you've got your whole life ahead of you with this person. And I think the way it kind of just came about, she took sick and in a matter of weeks she was gone. That was a lot to deal with. And from a spiritual point of view, which I now know for myself, like I am definitely a spiritual person. I think it was the night that she passed away, I dreamt that she was going to die. And I think from that point on, I knew that life was more than just this, you know.
Well, when you went to secondary school,
mm-hmm.
You know, my memories of secondary school is just fun. When you suddenly had an awareness of your voice,
mm-hmm.
how did you develop that? What I'm saying, did you get caught up in the distraction of school? Both. So can you talk a bit about how you started to develop musically? Music
was, as I said, after losing, I wrote my first I was writing little poems trying to rhyme at 8. So after losing my gran, and then moving through, you know, you go through a period where family just, you know, you're getting on, you're just trying to survive. Moved from there and went to senior school, and I was just, luckily they had like a dance production, which they did every year. So from that, the first 3 years, say from, you know, year 1 to 3, I was constantly distracted with everything else that was going on in my life. I could put all that energy into dance production. And also I loved running as well, athletics. Damaged my knee somehow, but I still loved dance. So that was, for me at the time, going through the grieving and the pain of losing somebody so close. Those were my distractions, and that's what helped me to kind of find myself. Found what made me happy, and it was like a healing for me. Drama teacher again, she was so supportive, and she kind of guided me through unknowingly, because not everybody knew what was going on, but I think she just saw something in me that said, you know what, you could take this work further. And I took her advice, went to college from there, did a bit of art. I love drawing as well. And I've just found that anything to do with being creative and using, any form of the arts, whether it's music. I didn't learn to play an instrument fluently, but I can dabble on a keyboard a bit. And that was just, again, through just picking up something and being curious and saying, you know what, I want to know if I can create a sound.
Well, a question I want to ask, and I use my own memories in this. All the singers that you quoted are mainly American singers. Growing up, finding a voice, was there any role models within a UK context, or did you kind of say, I want to be like the Americans in the way that your voice was shaped?
Good question.
Because I'm just trying to figure out that in the UK, we still obsess about the American situation. And I'm wondering when I think of people like Ruby Turner, Laura Mvula, when I think there's so many women out there, but what is it about the American voice that makes people say, I want to do? Is it the fact that we look at the industry that we're attached to, or is it the vocals?
I think at the time it was more about what was accessible. Like us now, we've got social media, you've got YouTube and everything else. Back then it was just a few channels that were there. So it was what, we had. I remember there was a period or a season where Soul Train came on, being young. So that was my first experience of seeing, this party going on TV. That was nothing to do with the UK, but yet I still felt attached to the soul music that, they were singing and performing. I think for here, you mentioned Ruby Turner and so forth. My only experience of like Ruby Turner was back in the day when I think she did some work or something with UB40, and they showed something on TV, or I heard something within the neighbourhood. And obviously I think she was in Birmingham, so I know a couple of times one of my cousin's sisters used to go down and they used to do their hair and stuff like that. So I knew of her, but I didn't know of her work until I got older. But people, like 2 UK people that I really did like, but then I didn't know what happened to them, was Jackie Graham and David Grant. They did a song that was called, oh my gosh, and it rings in my head. Oh my God, what's it called? Could It Be I'm Falling in Love? And didn't know nothing about love or nothing, but a lot of my music I write about love and the experience of being in love, and that can be from relationships to, relationships with your children, parents, outsiders.
Well, let me comment on something then, because you mentioned words like love, and obviously one of the things that singers do is they want to share their work. The moment when you thought, my voice sounds okay, who did you share that with? I mean, did you go to your friends and say, hey, listen to my song? I mean, how did you initially share your love and your passion, and what happened when you did that?
The first time I was doing music at senior school anyway, and my music teacher was very supportive. He was fascinated the fact that, he was teaching us chord progression and stuff, and I could write melodies and, come up with a song. And it was years later when I, we left school, went to college and everything, did a bit of music production as well. And it was, through me writing little rhymes and poems, and then, as you do with your data verbalization kind of thing, just finding beats. I used to listen to Tim Westwood till what time and just sing over other people's beats, whether it was Radio 1, whatever it was, I'd sing over their music. My music teacher encouraged me again to continue with it through college. My mum, I remember hearing a radio advert, I don't know whether it was PCRL or one of those, and they were looking for singers to come down to their studio. I was 14. Took down the number quick time, phoned mum, because mum was a nurse, she worked hard as well, and asked her if she'd take me down, and went down there and got involved, introduced myself, sang Whitney Houston. Didn't have a clue like how to sing Whitney, you know what I mean, but I just sang it because I never had any vocal training. at that time or anything like that. But those are the people that we were listening to: Whitney's and Regina Bell, Anita Baker,